Bryce Young's season, it's unfortunate for him how good C.J. Stroud has looked.
Yeah.
The rookie quarterbacks, I say it all the time, and I'll say it again here, right? Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud are going to face each other this upcoming week. They're not going to be on the field at the same time as each other. It's not like, C.J. Stroud's going to be throwing jump balls all day because Bryce Young is undersized and right, like at safety he can't get there. But these two will be forever linked. They will be forever matched up against each other. Their stats will be on graphics 10 years from now with their win-loss records, their QBRs, and their passing stats, one on one side, one on the other. And there is a bit of being graded on the curve compared to a draft, right? You are going to be graded based on how well you do in comparison to the other quarterbacks that were available when you get drafted. It's the I'm trying to. I think it was N'Keal Harry,
yeah,
who was drafted above Terry McLaurin and DK Metcalf and all. And the fact of the matter is that the guys behind you are worse than you. You look like a good draft pick, right? If you are Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud was also struggling, or maybe even more so struggling, I think the patience for Bryce Young goes a lot further, right? I think the patience and the rookies take time goes a lot further rather than what he's dealing with, which is the Texans were bad last year, right? The Texans don't have an obvious number one wide receiver. Well, what's Bryce Young's excuse? Right? Oh, great. The Panthers were bad. We got it. Oh, look, they don't have a number one wide receiver. Perfect. Neither do the Texans. C.J. Stroud is having – and even if you dive in and you go, well, actually, Nico Collins, some advanced analytics say, wow, he is really good. And, they do have Tank Dell, who's a mid-round wide receiver who they hit on rather than somebody like Jonathan Mingo, who's even a higher round pick, but the Panthers are hoping develops a little bit further later on. There's shades of gray to every comparison. And also you could just throw out there, it's like week 7, right? You could throw out there that there really hasn't been that much opportunity to, have outliers kind of level out. But when these two play, whether it's fair or not, right? Because that kind of, that is the deal. You heard with Hubert Davis, right? We're here at ACC tip-off. Hubert Davis, head coach of North Carolina. I asked him if he's seen any problems with name, image, and likeness coming from the fact that some guys in his locker room are making, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some guys are making less. Some guys are making in the middle. And he said, after kind of thinking about it for a minute, he was like, that's life, right? It's not always going to be exactly equal and fair. And I'll use that here, right? Bryce Young, it has absolutely nothing to do with Bryce Young, how well C.J. Stroud is doing in Houston, right? If the Houston Texans dial up a wide open wide receiver on Sunday and the wide receiver could catch it, he could fair catch it, but he makes the catch and then backpedals into the end zone, we're going to say C.J. Stroud 1 touchdown pass, Bryce Young 0 touchdown passes, right? Meanwhile, if Bryce Young throws a pass on the money and the wide receiver drops it, we're going to say C.J. Stroud 1 touchdown pass, Bryce Young 0 touchdown passes. It's not fair. But when you're drafted number 1 and number 2, you're forever going to be compared against each other. So this weekend is one where, right, everyone that's ever been successful probably will admit that it comes with a little bit of luck, right? It's 50% hard work, 20% help from others, 20%. You remember, if you're out there and you're of a certain age, for a fact the song I'm thinking of. There was a song by Fort Minor that was the highlight film song for every single middle school and high school football team for like 5 years, where it was like 5% pleasure, 15% pain, 100%, and they broke down
10% luck, 20% skill.
There you go. You broke down it all. There's definitely a percentage of luck in there. If Bryce Young just wants like the metaphorical monkey off his back, if he just wants some of the pressure to be alleviated, the luck portion of it is have C.J. Stroud throw 2 or 3 picks.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't care if they're C.J. Stroud's fault. Have him bounce right off the wide receiver's hands. If at the end of the day, Bryce Young has a better score sheet, a better stat sheet than C.J. Stroud, there's going to be a weight lifted off Bryce Young's shoulders because then CJ Stroud will be winning the season long because his stats will be better and he's been more efficient and all of those things. But Bryce Young will win the head-to-head. And quite often the tiebreaker comes down to the head-to-head, right? When they were on the same field with the same weather conditions, what did they look like? So, if you're pulling apart it's going to be Thanksgiving time, right? If you're pulling apart your wishbone, you're making a wish for Bryce Young, could be Bryce Young plays great or CJ Stroud looks like Bryce Young has looked. And that will just take some of the pressure off because right now the comparison is really, really hurting Bryce Young. If you take away that comparison, I think everyone's much more comfortable saying, oh, it's a rookie year for Bryce. He's going to have growing pains. Oh, he's going to be better. Oh, he'll learn, right? He's not making the same mistake twice anymore. But because CJ Stroud didn't have to make the same mistake once to have success, now it's, well, what's going on with that, Bryce? Right? It's the teacher's pet, right? But CJ Stroud right now is saying, like, actually, teacher, you forgot homework. Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, actually, can we look at passer rating? Can we look at passer rating, please? Not just, how open the wide receivers are. Can we look at interceptions next, Mr. or Mrs. Teacher? And Bryce Young's going, dude, shut up. dude, I didn't do well in interceptions. Don't tell him to look at interceptions. That's not what I want going on right now. So they're gonna be on the same field next to each other. It's an opportunity to level that playing field.
Do you find it interesting that?
By the way, next week, not next year. It's actually this week.
It's this coming Sunday.
Yeah,
it's
there
fine.
you go. Calendars make my head hurt.
Do you find it interesting that the Texans, with a rookie head coach who is a linebacker in the NFL and defensive coordinator, that team is getting more out of their rookie quarterback than the Panthers, who have a head coach who is a former NFL quarterback, been an offensive coordinator, and been a head coach now at multiple stops for multiple years? Like, why is one team getting more out of their rookie quarterback? Is that coaching?
I think it's actually the ease with which the head coach will turn over the offense. Right, they have Bobby Slowick, who was the passing game coordinator for the Niners, as the offensive coordinator in Houston. I don't think DeMeco Ryans is going to be micromanaging him because he's a defensive head coach. Frank Reich,
let the play caller be the play caller.
Like how many cooks are in the kitchen for the Panthers offense?
That's my concern.
Frank Reich, offensive head coach. Obviously, Thomas Brown, offensive coordinator, just took over play calling. They have Caldwell, who was a longtime head coach and offensive mind in the NFL as a senior offensive assistant. They have Deuce Staley, who, if you paid attention to his run on the Lions Hard Knocks, is the running backs coach. He's somebody that has opinions and likes to know how his players are used.
Josh McCown
is he's a former quarterback. Now he's the quarterback's coach, so that makes sense. But also, quarterbacks are control freaks. There's a lot of hands in that ingredients, mixing them all up. And meanwhile, you go to Houston, and it's like it's a one-on-one communication. It's Slowick and it's CJ Stroud, and they're locked in arm in arm. I think that does help quite a bit with the development. Like, you need one voice, literally one voice in their ear for every single improvement. I think there might be like six voices in the ear of Bryce Young. But we'll see how it plays out this weekend on Sunday when they play.